Today, we're going to talk about the benefits of filing for your EB-5 investor visa in 2026. So, obviously, this program has been around for 30 years, but this is a very, very important year, and we're going to dissect specifically why this year it may make sense for a lot of individuals who are waiting for a long time to file, and what additional benefits investors who filed this year have that will not be available in the future. So first, what is important to understand about the EB-5 Regional Center program, that's the program that allows you to invest through large investment funds and not have to manage the day-to-day operations of the business. The Regional Center program was created, it's either 92 or 93, I don't remember exactly, but it was never made permanent. So that program has to be renewed by Congress every few years because it expires every few years. Obviously, it's been around for now 30 plus years, and there's a very high probability that it will get extended again. But it's important to keep in mind that the program was last extended in 2022, and it will expire, so sunset, in September, so specifically September 30th of 2027. So when it sunsets, what does that mean? That can mean that petitions that are pending, if Congress doesn't renew it in September of 2027, then those individuals who invested and filed their petitions may be completely out of luck if they didn't receive their green cards by then, right? So if someone filed their petition a few months before the program sunsets and the program sunsets and Congress chooses not to renew it, they simply might not be eligible to finish the process because there is no more program. So the program expires in 27. We do have, obviously high hopes that Congress will renew it, but it is not a guarantee. As a matter of fact, twice in the history of EB-5, this program has lapsed. One time it was by 2 years, the lapse was 2 years, and one time the lapse lasted for about 1 year. So that's just important to keep in mind. The extension is not guaranteed, and the program expires in 27. And unless you have your initial green card already in hand by then, so not just file and invest and file, but actually get approved and get your green card, you may be ineligible if the program expires. So why should you be filing in 2026? Well, obviously, because if you file this year, there's a solid chance that you may already have your green card in hand by the time the program expires. But more importantly, you don't even need to worry about it, because if you file your petition by September 30th, 2026, you are subject to what's called a grandfathering protection. So the law states that those investors who file their petitions by September 30th of 2026 are grandfathered in. Meaning, even if the program changes in the future, even if it expires in the future, the petitioners who filed before September of 2026 get to continue on their immigration journey and get to finish the process and obtain the green card under the rules that existed today. So this grandfathering protection is only in place for petitioners who file on September 30th of this year. So that's the number one reason why I recommend to invest and file by September 30th of 2026 if this is something you're thinking about doing. What happens after September 30th? Can you still invest and file your petition? Absolutely. The program is still going to be operational for at least a year, which means you can invest, you can file your petition, you may even file a concurrent adjustment. However, that petition is going to be pending. And if you file between October 1st of 2026 and your petition and your initial green card are not approved yet by a year later, by September 30th, 2027, then you're taking kind of this chance. If the program is renewed, no problem. You continue and you finish the process. If the program is not renewed, you will have to see what's going to happen to your petition. Either they're going to come out with some sort of protection, or they may, unfortunately, deny and dismiss those cases. So we don't know what's going to happen to petitioners who file in 2027 if the program is not renewed, but we do know that if you file by September 30th, 2026, that's not going to be one of your concerns. So that's, on the first reason why it's good to file by September 30th, 26. Why is it good to file in 2026 overall? Well, that's because on January 1st, 2027, the investment amount automatically will adjust. So again, the Reform and Integrity Act, which is the latest EB-5 renewal, states that on January 1st, 2027, the minimum investment amount, which is currently $800,000, must be adjusted for inflation. So USCIS is going to recalculate it and adjust it upwards, with inflation. So the estimate is going to be that since the last time it was implemented in March of 22, the inflation in 5 or so years is going to bring that investment amount up to about 900,000, maybe a little bit more. Right? So that's another reason. If you invest by September 30th, you're investing at a minimum amount of 800,000 plus your grandfathered in. If you invest between October 1st of 26 and January 1st of 27, then you're investing at least at the minimum investment amount of 800,000. If you're investing on January 1st or later, you are going to be invested, you have to come up with a larger amount. So it's going to be about 900,000 if you're in a targeted zone. And if your project is not in a targeted employment zone, the current minimum is $1,050,000. With inflation, it's probably be closer to 1.2 million. So keep those two things in mind. The grandfathering protection is going to expire, then the minimum investment amount is going to increase. And another huge reason to invest in 2026, if you are specifically coming from India, if your country of birth is India or China, even if you have other passports, you are subject to what's called per country capita. So there are limits. If we're starting to use up all the EB-5 visa numbers available, not everybody gets to be in the same line and have additional wait time. The way it's distributed is once we get close to utilizing all the EB-5 visa numbers available, individuals that come from countries that use up more than 7% of the total get put in a wait time. So it's common with different immigration visas. We see it in family petitions, we see it in work petitions. Specifically, the countries that usually hit their individual cap the fastest is China, India. In family-based categories, so it's also the Philippines, Mexico, but when it comes to work-based categories, China and India tend to hit those caps fast. So if you are a Chinese or Indian investor looking at the EB-5 program, as of today, right now, we're in March of 2026, the visa bulletin is current for certain set-aside EB-5 visas. What does that mean? You can file for the petition and submit a concurrent adjustment application, so request to change your status right away, and there's no additional wait time, right? To submit the adjustment. By the time your petition is approved, you may have to still deal with some additional wait time to get the actual green card. But as of right now, the visa bulletin, that's the calendar that determines whether or not you're eligible to file a petition and a concurrent adjustment. That one is current for all countries in the EB-5 set-aside categories. In simple terms, without getting too technical, if you were born in India or China and you want to take advantage of the EB-5 program today, as of today, March 2026, you're able to do so. If you're going in the next few months, and it could be 3 months, it could be 9 months, but basically by the end of this year, we actually expect that visa bulletin is going to be shifted specifically for Indian and Chinese investors, and they might not be eligible to file concurrent adjustment anymore. So this is also, if you look at the numbers and the data and the number of petitioners who have been filing EB-5 cases, this seems like the last window for the next few months when the visa bulletin is going to be current for both Indian born and Chinese born investors. So that's another reason to file in 2026. Who does this impact? In a practical standpoint, if you're an H-1B visa holder and your country of birth is India, if you're working here in the United States and would like to obtain permanent residency through your own route, that's something that's still possible this year. If you're an international student, you finish studying here, and you're not sure that you're going to get an H-1B visa, or you don't like the fact that getting a green card through an employer may take years if you're even eligible, and if you even find an employer to petition for you, EB-5 may be an option for you. And again, the next few months are going to be crucial. So far, we're at 3 reasons why one should consider filing for an EB-5 investor visa in 2026. Also a reminder, EB-5 investor visa is an immigrant visa, meaning a green card, right? Those words are used interchangeably. Immigrant visa is a green card, permanent residency. So reason number 1, if you file before September 30th, 26, you're protected by the grandfathering protection. Reason number 2, the minimum investment amount in 2026 is $800,000 if your project is in a targeted zone, and $1,050,000 if it's not in a targeted zone, and that investment amount will go up per statute on January 1st, 27. Reason number 3, the visa bulletin is current for all countries. So if you're coming from countries like India and China, where you will expect to have additional wait time in the future, as of right now, concurrent adjustment is available to you if you file your EB-5 petition. So these are 3 strong reasons, why someone who has been considering the EB-5 program may want to consider doing this sooner than later. Another, just kind of less formal reasons, but preferences, as an investment broker in this space and someone who has been an EB-5 professional for the past 14 years, and I've seen this industry go through many different cycles. I've seen many different projects come out. I would say this year is one of the better years in terms of project availability. And there are certain things that work out well for us. Because the bank interest rates are high, a lot of very large developers who normally don't want anything to do with EB-5 because it's very easy for them to go to a bank and get a low interest construction loan. Now, because the interest rates in banks are very high, these large developers who have a lot of their own cash and do a good job on their projects are actually willing to take in EB-5 investors. Because remember, taking in EB-5 investors does create a lot of extra work for the developer. They have to create jobs, they have to account for them, they have to turn in a bunch of a call coming through, and so it was interrupting my Instagram live. But what I was saying is, as the bank interest rates remain high right now in comparison to where they were a few years ago, we're actually seeing more large companies coming to this side of the industry, so coming to EB-5 and seeking EB-5 investors. So from an EB-5 investor standpoint, we have, I would say, better and more choices. We have projects who are offering first-lien position to their investors, which we practically did not see until maybe 2023 in our industry. It was almost always bank senior loan, and then investors were only offered to come in a second position. We're also seeing just larger companies who have a lot of their own cash, they're more reputable, be willing to work with the EB-5 investor visa program and bring in EB-5 investors. So I would say, from a project selection standpoint, we are seeing larger, more solid, more experienced developers utilizing EB-5 financing, so we have more choices. And a lot of times we see better terms for investors because, again, bank financing is expensive, so the terms the developers were willing to give to large banks, now some of them are willing to give the same terms and protections to EB-5 investors because this EB-5 capital has become even more important for them. That being said, everyone in our industry understands that there's going to be a big flow of investors up until September 30th, 2026, taking advantage of the grandfathering protection. And after that, there's going to be a slowdown. So people who are also putting out EB-5 projects are putting out a lot of EB-5 offerings now in the spring of 26, and we will still have some of those projects open in the summer of 26. But once those projects fill up, we're not going to have a lot of options left in the fall. Because from a perspective of a regional center and a real estate developer, when you're putting together a project and deciding how you will finance it, you don't want to start a project in October of 2027 expecting to need to finance a lot of that through EB-5 investors. Because the flow of EB-5 investors is going to slow down, and you may be sitting on a project that doesn't get enough financing to move. Not a lot of developers, not a lot of regional centers are planning to introduce new EB-5 projects to the market this summer. So, excuse me, we have a number of EB-5 offerings coming out right now, spring, maybe early summer of 2026. But as these projects start to get filled up by investors, keep in mind that we're not going to have as many choices come August and September of 2026, and even fewer choices for projects come next fall. All right. So project selection availability is also going to start, playing a role. And right now we just have more of a selection. And of course, with everything else, processing times, we have seen some very strong and solid processing times in 2024 and 2025. Investors who are investing in rural projects are often seeing their petitions reviewed in just 6 to 8 months, which is really how the program should be running. Those in urban projects see a slower adjudication time, but these are very strong processing times. And once again, as things change and pivot at USCIS, we're not sure that in the future they will remain this efficient. So while the department is working in an efficient manner, this is also a great time to consider investing. So all the different reasons. So grandfathering protection, September 30th. Investment amount still at a low point. It automatically has to increase in January 2027. And of course, the visa bulletin and being able to file concurrent filing for Chinese and Indian investors. And I should mention that once the minimum investment amount goes up to 900,000 something, it is extremely unlikely that it's going to get reduced when Congress is going to renew the program. So assuming Congress is going to renew the program in 2027, if we're lucky and the program gets renewed, that investment amount is very unlikely going to be reduced, right? It doesn't make sense. When the program was originally introduced in, very, very early 90s, the minimum investment amount was 500,000. It's been more than 30 years. It was only increased by 300,000. So once it goes up to 900, I don't expect that it's going to come back down. So more reasons to really consider taking advantage of this program now, if it's right for you. Now, everything I'm telling you guys on this live, nothing is legal advice because each individual person's case is different. And if you are considering this program, you should speak to a qualified immigration attorney who can review your specific case, who knows the EB-5 program well, right? You do not want to be receiving advice from someone who doesn't know this program well and doesn't know the nuances, because they may tell you something doesn't work that works and vice versa. So get advice from a qualified EB-5 experienced immigration attorney regarding your particular case. But absolutely, if you have more interests, send us a message. We can direct you to a list of immigration attorneys or answer some of your questions. And how to get started. Um, a lot of people ask me, if the deadline is September 30th, how much time do I still have time to go in? Yes, you absolutely have time to go in. Usually it takes for most people 1 to 3 months to work with their immigration attorney and prepare the documents, pick an investment project, invest, and file. 1 month is like super, super quick. Very few people are able to achieve that, and it's a little bit stressful. 3 months, I think, is where most people fall within like a normal processing time. So I recommend to get started sooner than later. We have about 6 months. I would say try not to push this timeline. Obviously, if it's September 1st and you have a great immigration attorney and you're working with a good project broker who can assist you with project selection, it may still be doable to file your case. But my kind of recommendation is try not to start the process after August 1st. Try to get it started before August 1st. Ideally, I would say right now, March, April, May, June is a good time to get started so that you're collecting your documents without stress, picking a project. And if you can file this summer, you're going to be ahead of a few thousand people who are going to be submitting their applications in August and September. And a few thousand people makes a big difference when it comes to when your case is going to get processed. Because remember, USCIS now announced that they will process cases in the order that they have arrived, first in, first out. So there's going to be a huge difference in your wait time if you file your case in June versus if you're filing your case at the end of the September. Because in between, there's going to be a few thousand applicants that file that have to get adjudicated before you. So if you have any questions, let us know. I'll be happy to answer them. Also, please comment. Please forward this information to those that may be helpful. Please subscribe to this channel if you're interested in the EB-5 program, or you've invested previously or maybe are considering investing in the future. I'm here and happy to provide information. And of course, please give us new topics that you want me to discuss, and I will be happy to discuss them. Thank you so much. Have a good one.